Hello everyone! Today I am going to be ranking my 25 favorite, this is my personal favorite, Kylie Minogue songs. I've been thinking, what artist should I do a sort of tier ranking or best of video for? And then I thought, what better chance to do a video about an artist who just released a new album last month. And Kylie Minogue is an artist I have talked about on this channel, but I've only reviewed one album of hers. So it's not a very strong album, so it's not really the one I would choose. It was just during a time when I was reviewing albums quite frequently. I reviewed her 2018 album, Golden. But I was thinking maybe I'd review her new album, Tension. But then I thought what more interesting video that could be made would be a video of me ranking my favorite songs throughout her career. Kylie has spanned 4 decades, since 1988, when she debuted with her debut single, I Should Be So Lucky, in Australia, and has been on world domination ever since. It's kind of funny because, you know, Madonna comes up all the time as being the queen of pop, and, you know, other artists that kind of take over that space. But I feel that Kylie doesn't often get her dues as sort of being noteworthy as well. I think that Kylie is very well known in the gay community, but outside of the queer community, I don't think Kylie gets as much love, though she certainly gets a lot of radio play. Her biggest hits, like Spinning Around, Can't Get You Out of My Head, The Locomotion, those have gotten quite a lot of radio play throughout the years and done very well overseas, not just in Australia and the UK, which is still kind of the epicenter of her market. She gets her best scores there, but the US has given her a lot of love in the past, and most recently with her latest hit single, Padam Padam, which is really exciting to see since Kylie is actually in her 50s. She's 55 years old and still on top. You know, she broke this huge, she got to this huge milestone, at least in the UK. She's only the 4th female solo artist to have a top 10 single in 5 different decades. This is, of course, including Diana Ross, Cher, and Lulu. So Kylie actually beat Madonna to something that would have been, I think, Madonna's to grab. Madonna's not having the same kind of success that Kylie's been having in the 2010s and now 2020s. Although Madonna just opened a phenomenal world tour that I would love to go see. Probably will never get to see Madonna. Well, definitely won't see this one live, but I'm very excited about Celebration. Not here to, you know, start anything here, but, you know, I don't want to see this like catty comparison between Kylie and Madonna, but they are very similar. They also look very similar. And they have a similar sort of history with their kind of discography and the evolution of it. For instance, they both went through a sort of more experimental phase in the 90s before returning to what they were best known for in the 80s, but with an updated electronic dance sound in the 2000s. Their trajectories are sort of similar, but also different. And so I'm excited to talk about. I'm going to talk about 25 songs, and we're going to be counting down from my least favorite of the 25 to my most favorite. Though with this 25 ranking, take it with a pinch of salt. You know, it's really hard to place these songs. I love them all. It's really hard with Kylie, especially because as much as I'm happy to make this video and I have lots of positive things to say about Kylie's music, a lot of her songs are, shall we say, a little simplistic conceptually. And there's not a whole lot other than the production and the rhythm and the catchiness and the hooks that draws me in. Lyricism takes a back seat with a lot of these songs, so I won't spend as much time talking and focusing on that. Kylie is a bubblegum artist. That doesn't mean that bubblegum cannot be top tier, showing high musicianship and, you know, great production value. Nothing wrong with that. But Kylie, you know, has her emotive, more experimental, artistic side, but she also likes to sort of have a lot of fun, which is something that we all expect from a pop star. We all want fun, escapist dance music at the end of the day. It's just so undeniable. So with that being said, let's dive into this list with song number 25. I'll put audio snippets. So this one I'm being very generous in including. It wasn't originally jumping out to me. I mean, there's going to be a lot of hit singles in this video. It's hard to avoid her singles. She's really good at picking them. Most of the songs that she picks as her singles, especially from her earlier albums, are all the songs that I actually like from those records. I find the deep cuts to not be nearly up to the quality in terms of hook and catchiness and repeatability as her hit singles, as all of her singles were hits back in the day, especially in the 80s and early 90s, which then kind of picked up again in the 2000s. So Speakerphone is off of her 2007 album X, which, believe it or not, is actually her first album that I actually purchased a song from on iTunes. It's her first album that I really dived into Kylie's music from. I had heard of Kylie Minogue before, and I had certainly heard some of her ubiquitous hits, but I didn't really know who sang them at the time. I wasn't really familiar with her beyond the name recognition of this is another pop star that has songs on the radio. And so X was actually my gateway into Kylie because it was high school. It was when I was really discovering kind of music like hers, similarly to Madonna at that time. So I was really late. X comes very late into her career, but nonetheless, Speakerphone was one of the first songs I actually ever heard of hers. I believe it was Wow was actually the first music video I ever watched of hers. But Speakerphone was one of those songs I initially got. One of my first Kylie songs I ever downloaded. You know, it has no business being this corny. I think this song is the perfect example of camp pop music from Kylie that is unapologetically going for a certain sound that's not going to appeal to everyone who wants to take music more seriously. This is kind of a sexy dominatrix robot with a harp sample and glitchy, digitized to oblivion sound effects. You know, the delivery is robotic and camp, and it's everything I like from when Kylie has just so much fun with just fully embodying being this sort of glamtron sex robot pop diva. Speakerphone is undeniable. If you've not heard this one, I highly recommend it. It reminds me a lot of Uffy, who is another who has a song called Pop the Glock. It's got a very similar cadence and robotic kind of digital flow. So not much else I can say, but Speakerphone is delectable in all the right ways. What Kind of Fool Heard It All Before? So this is off of her first Greatest Hits album. Kylie has, to my knowledge, at least 2 Greatest Hits albums. The first came out in 1992, and this was the first single off of it. There was also another single, which was a cover of the hit song Celebration. I actually thought Kylie originated this song when I first heard it. I know my music knowledge of the 60s and 70s is lacking. It's gotten better, but back in the day, several years ago, I'll admit, Kylie's version is better. Same with the Locomotion. Anyway, Kylie admitted that she's not a huge fan of the song. For whatever reason, she doesn't find it to be, to her ear, that memorable melodically. And she thinks that it's sort of retrotting territory, like that I Should Be So Lucky and others that followed kind of had trod so well before. But I actually think this song is stronger than I Should Be So Lucky melodically. You'll notice, well, I don't want to spoiler anything, but I Should Be So Lucky isn't going to be on this list. Now, I think it definitely deserves an honorable mention. I will shout out honorable mentions once they get to the top 5. But this is a stronger song for me just in terms of the hook and the production. So I think it's a little more fully fleshed out. I Should Be So Lucky is so early 80s demo that takes over and becomes a huge hit, just like Everybody was for Madonna. But when you listen back to these songs, you sort of see the rudimentary nature of the production. You see the potential. It's not fully realized yet. That's not to say that I Should Be So Lucky is a bad song or that it feels unfinished. It's just not quite to the level of the songs I'm going to be discussing today. I think Kylie only gains in strength in a lot of cases. So another song that almost made a single but was not a single that I will feature on this list is the closing track off of her self-titled 1994 album Kylie Minogue, Time Will Pass You By. I believe this is one of her longest songs, as it is about 6 minutes long, and it almost did become a single, but the album just was starting to lose steam. The team decided to go against it. Life is just a precious minute. Open up your eyes and see it. Give yourself a better chance because time will inevitably pass you by. This is an exultant, kind of celebratory song, but cautionary at the same time. Kylie Minogue's self-titled album is a really intriguing one. It's one I've only recently really dived into because it's not as well known. It doesn't have as big of the huge hit songs that other albums of hers do. And it's a bridge between Impossible Princess and her 80s and her earlier records. There's still a danceability to it, but there is a lot of sonic choices that takes the sound in a different direction. One that's quite elevated, I would say. I think it shows off her vocals really well as well, with William Orbit-esque production in the background. Feels like, you know, it's nodding again in that early 2000s, late 90s sound that Madonna was getting into. Okay, so Time Bomb was a standalone single that actually this is the other greatest hits record that came out. It was, I think, a 25th anniversary special. It was called K25 in 2012, but it was never released digitally. It was just a box set that was exclusive for fans that you could get physically. This is a Britney Spears-esque song. It could have fit right on Blackout. Ecstatic electro pop. It's sticky sweet. High, fast tempo. It just runs wild. And it's definitely an earworm. The chorus, the verses, the backing production makes it feel like you are kind of ticking towards an explosion with that and then it just lets loose. And it's very glossy, very synthetic. What else are you going to expect? And then we have another deep cut. Everything is Beautiful. This is at number 21 off of Aphrodite. It's a lesser known stellar cut, in my not so humble opinion. We've got some uplifting keys and mellifluous vocal layering with hints of depth under a more celebratory kind of euphoric swell in the chorus, and in contrasting to the verses, which are a little bit more ominous. Tempo is just right. It soars off the page. I think the song has a lot going for it. And so for me, it's been an earworm ever since I sort of rediscovered it recently in making this video. I don't know why it didn't fully sink in when I first initially experienced Aphrodite back in 2010. At number 20, we have another song that I did not know was a cover, but I did include it on this list. We've got Tears on My Pillow. This was a single off of her second album, Enjoy Yourself, in 1989. A cover originally by Little Anthony and the Imperials. I think her version is so much better, of course. And it was also used as part of the soundtrack for Delinquents, which I have not seen. I can't even off the top of my head recall if she had a part in the movie. I think it was more just this song was used for it. When I didn't know this was a cover, I had it several places above where I have it now. But because I knew it was a cover, I felt like I had to push it back because it's not a song that she had any hand in writing. But she definitely delivers on it. Regardless, I'm still keeping it on this list. Number 19, Step Back in Time. Urgent, rhythmic, exemplary of Kylie's pop excellence. I actually like this song more than Better the Devil That You Know. That song is not going to be on this list, which I know might be kind of controversial. I just think the hook on this one is stronger. Some Kind of Bliss is a song off of the Impossible Princess record. It's a song that I probably, and when I initially exposed myself to the record, just dismissed because I never saw the music video and I didn't have the ear for it yet. But it was a single, and I do think it is a very interesting departure for her sonically. one that Kylie will probably never fully return to, but it definitely has merit as standing as like a real experimental, as Kylie really going into alternative rock. A grower track, and it's very Britpop, very Brit rock. It's about connecting with someone physically miles away, finding your own kind of happiness with them, despite the distance. Kylie has a great voice for rock. She does. It's not very utilized, but I'm not a huge rock fan, but I appreciate it when it's done right. And I think that this song, although it was not critically acclaimed as stellar, the consensus is that it's still worthy of being on this list. Okay, so we have Kylie's song Magic from Disco. Disco, I've got to be honest with you, is not a record that I think, especially once I started making this video and looking at her discography, stands out as much as I felt it would when it came out. But I just think that Tension has kind of overshadowed Disco to a large extent. I think Disco was her going in the right direction because, Golden, yeah, it was interesting to do something different for her, but it wasn't what the fans wanted. So we got that out of our system. We come up with Disco, the concept of returning to 70s Four on the Floor, and we only have several songs that I think really stand out. The rest kind of being a little bit, actually, I think lackluster and low energy. The album could use some pumping up, and I think Tension is just much more ecstatic, much more exuberant, much more colorful. But Magic is magic. The keyboard, the strings, it's brimming with life. Classic pop confection from Kylie, and it is the best song on Disco, and it was included in my Best Songs of 2020 video. All right, so we have Padam Padam, one of the most interesting song titles I think I've seen in recent times. This is a huge moment for her. Now, I think the song could be a tad overrated, but I had to include it on this list, and I ultimately felt like I believe I'm at 17, maybe 16. I ultimately felt like it did deserve to be here because this song is such a juggernaut. It's memorable and brilliant, next level, would have fit very much on X. I think this song is very X-coded. After the Elon Musk thing, I think it's so funny that Kylie has an album called X. Apparently, Elon Musk really likes the letter X, so I wonder if he's a fan of Kylie Minogue's X album. This has become a gay anthem, and it's amazing. I think it's deserving of all its success. It's the most successful modern era Kylie single. It was produced by Lost Boy. It has this Eastern European techno kind of sexy, slinky pop sound. The lyrics are 100% secondary to beat and rhythm. I Feel It and I Know is cheesy, but iconic all the more for it. It's definitely Can't Get You Out of My Head's little sister. Highest charting song in the US since All the Lovers in 2010. And it was the song that gave her that charting in 5 decades accolade in the UK. So Padam Padam is a success story that I'm not sure Kylie saw coming. I think it completely floored her and her team. But make no mistake, this song is definitely one of the standouts off of her new album, Tension. This song is definitely going to be a cult classic, I think, for particularly the gay community. And it's kind of ironic because I think Disco was an album that was just so much more geared to want to create a Padam Padam, but it didn't. And then here we come with Tension, which is just upping the ante. Even though it's a shorter track, I don't feel still is a satisfying meal as a pop song. Because it doesn't overstay its welcome, and maybe that's a good thing. If the song was extended out, I know there is an extended version, but I've never really listened to it, perhaps the song would start to lose some of its luster. It's a fast chorus, it's a fast verse. I think it suits itself to being in the little over 2-minute range. All right, so we got another song from Impossible Princess, Cowboy Style. Again, Madonna was definitely... The Cowboy, Impossible Princess and Ray of Light were being made at the same time, so I don't want to say that one was copying the other. because I'm not entirely sure that Madonna was aware entirely of what Kylie was doing when she made the bulk of Ray of Light. But Impossible Princess did come first, just saying. This is a very Eastern sounding song with very trippy production and instrumentation. I think you can see the evolution from Kylie Minogue, the self-titled in '94, to this song. Because Confide in Me is kind of just what's leading us to this place. It's very up-tempo, one of the most, I think, danceable, hooky songs on Impossible Princess, the most up-tempo. That is probably more at home with some of her other albums, even though there's a country tinge to it, which could harken to her 2018 record.
You know there's something about you and me. One more time, one more time, one more time. Rewind it back, we got history.
One More Time is the song on Tension that I feel like no one's talking about, okay? This album came out last month. One More Time immediately had my attention. This song is a sleeper hit, and I could see it being a huge single if she plays her cards right. I don't think she's going to make it a single. I think Hold On To Now is probably going to be the only other big single from this era, but I'd really love to see One More Time get a music video and the proper treatment as well. Because this is just pop perfection. Everything about this song, the more I listen to it, I love more and more. It is an earworm that is just oozing with life and character. Again, not really interested at all in the lyrics. Couldn't tell you what the song's about. I mean, I get the general gist from the chorus that gets, repeated over and over, but it's not about the lyrics for me. It's just about the hook, the synth beat, and the horns that come in that really jazz up this track, that really give it life.
I feel like this, I'm breaking it down. I'm not the same. I know you're feeling me 'cause you like it like me.
Spinning Around was a real kind of return to form for Kylie. This was her sort of saying, all right, I experimented in the 90s, but if you want me to come back to give you the late 80s pop that you've come to know me for, here you go. Spinning Around is, I think, I Should Be So Lucky's kind of eventual form, because it has an 80s sound. I actually thought this song was a lot older than it was. I could have easily heard this song coming out in 1988. But it doesn't sound dated for 2000. I think it's the perfect sort of spot that Light Years embodied in her career, where she was looking forward and backward at the same time in the most wonderful way. And the album still doesn't feel dated today. It still feels futuristic. It still feels next level. And yet it feels classic. It feels like it knows its musical history behind it. Light Years is a phenomenal record. Probably my favorite Kylie Minogue record. I mean, it's pretty evident once you see this list and after I made this video. This song was interestingly co-written by Paula Abdul. And there are themes of reinvention and self-discovery in the track, which is sort of evident of the journey that she was on, sort of realizing, the dance floor is where I do best. It's where I feel the most at home. All right, so Hold On To Now is definitely the song that the fans, I think, are gravitating towards outside of Padam Padam the most on Tension, and for good reason. It's elated. It's a meaningful song. I love the message. The power of this song is undeniable. At face value, it's just a killer track, and it will definitely make its way onto my best songs of 2023 video. So will probably One More Time and Padam Padam. I have a feeling all three of those songs are going to make it. I can't just give one or two. I have to give them to all three. Kylie and Tension, brava, brava. I definitely was thinking about reviewing the record, but to be honest with you, these three songs are the ones that stand out for me the most. I do also enjoy Story. I think Story gets an honorable mention. I think that Vegas High, although it sounds a little too much like how disco was, I think Vegas High is something I definitely have on my phone. And then, of course, the title track as well. The title track is definitely something going in the X direction. Tension would have sounded 100% at home on the X album. Those are my favorite songs off the record, along with probably the bonus track Love Train. So if you wanted to know my thoughts on the record, those are it.
To you, I'm into you, can't resist. You're so high, get me into the shade. The spotlight's on, you creep into it, you like it, just the way that you dance.
Okay, We have Wow. This sample on the keyboard is just, it's crack, I'm telling you. Greg Kurstin did his thing. This is the most maximalist pop hook, the campiest pop hook you can come up with. And like I said, this is probably my real first exposure to Kylie. This is like 2009 for me. I'm finally looking into her music on iTunes, 16 years old, and I'm like, what is this? Okay? So Wow is definitely in the history books, and it's in the pantheon of gay pop anthems. I don't want to see any slander on Wow. I don't know what else to say. So we have reached the top 10. And what fills out the beginning of the top 10 but one of her other huge gay anthem hits? Your Disco Needs You from Light Years. This is the fiercest song I think she's ever made, and she performs it like her rent is due right now. UK fans were mad it wasn't a single. This song was going to be originally the final single off of the record, but Please Stay was chosen instead, which I think was a decision by the marketing team because they felt Your Disco Needs You was possibly too camp. For Kylie, too camp? That's not a thing, okay? This is Kylie's thing. It's very Pet Shop Boys. This is definitely a nod to classic disco that Kylie needed to make and sounds just right at home in 2000 in this pivotal moment in the pop landscape. Can't get enough of it. There is definitely a mariachi vibe in there. Some, like, I don't know. I love it. That's all I'm going to say.
Just because I am quiet, I'm thinking about it. Oh, I'm helpless about the way me.
At number 9, we have Breathe. This is my favorite song off of Impossible Princess. When I first listened to the album back in like 2014, I'd like to say, this was the only song that stood out to me. It took a lot of repeated listens for me to find other songs enjoyable. Breathe was the instant gratification track for me. Seductive ambient trip hop. Again, kind of in conversation with Ray of Light with Madonna, but doing its whole other thing. I mean, it's a galactic sort of interstellar song with the production, but at the same time, it's intimate. So it's a blend of expansive and intimate in a wonderful blend. Wouldn't change a thing. This is I Should Be So Lucky's sort of 80s pop counterpart that I think is actually stronger. I cannot get the hook out of my head. Cannot get it out of my head. This was a huge hit for her off of Enjoy Yourself. You know what I think is really strange is that I didn't realize this, but her first 2 albums were released in the US. They were released worldwide. But then her next 4 albums, or 5 even, were not released in the United States. From Rhythm of Love all the way through Light Years, those albums were not released in the United States, ever. And so it's hard to get real good charting positions on them because they were only imported. It wasn't until Fever in 2001 that Kylie decided to return to the North American market. It's crazy as someone who didn't really experience Kylie until well back into the 2000s and 2010s to imagine that Kylie records were not coming out, especially when she started out selling overseas, but then narrowed her market to just the Europe, the UK, and Australia. I think that's really interesting. Confide in Me is this indie Middle Eastern, produced by Brothers in Rhythm track. It's a change of pace, as I've spoken earlier from her preceding albums. Seductively trying to get lovers to trust her. The Madonna comparison, again, it's a little tired, but there's a lot of referential sort of conversation going on here. I think it's fair to say. Interestingly, Bedtime Stories and this album came out around the same time. And so it's not like one really was fully copying the other because they both were making them at the same time. It's like they both were on the same wavelength. But Confide in Me would have 100% lived on Bedtime Stories as well. Could have even lived on erotica, to be honest. I think there was some influence there. But this is one of her most elegant tracks. Very, very wonderfully composed.
All my dreams were waking up. I slowly lost my mind with every single memory.
At number 6, we have the sexiest song she has ever made. Chocolate off of Body Language. Body Language is an album, I'm going to be honest, I've had a really hard time getting into. I feel like I should like it more just because of the, Britney Spears Blackout comparisons and what this album, again, is for gay culture. But outside of Chocolate, there weren't a lot of songs that were really grabbing me. I felt like the lead single, Slow, was just not... Let's just put it this way. Kylie's campy, sort of high bubblegum pop style can definitely backfire on her for me. I think sometimes it's a little too much. It's trying a little too much, and the experimentation falls flat. The melody is just horrible to me on Slow. But thankfully, Chocolate saves us. This song is one of the most mesmerizing of her entire catalog. The music video is perhaps my favorite music video of hers and one of my favorite music videos from a pop diva. I mean, I cannot get over the artistic level of performance on display. I mean, it's high fashion, it's ballet, it's sultry, it's sexy, but it's so refined. So the sound is conducting imagery that only true masters of production and music composition can create. The music video is apparently a tribute to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer musicals. Johnny Douglas was the producer. Interestingly, Wikipedia lists a genre signifier on this track alongside disco and funk as Quiet Storm. I have never heard that term used to describe the song before. I find that interesting. Apparently, it's a form of R&B. So I was going to say this is definitely touching into urban territory for Kylie. It's signifying that shift in the 2000s for her. Apparently, it was named after a Smokey Robinson song, that type of genre name. It's a very jazzy, kind of lustful style. All right, we've reached the top 5. Before I give you the top 5, I think I should reference a couple honorable mentions. But at first, I should say I Should Be So Lucky deserves a shout out, right? I've already talked about it. I Should Be So Lucky is the song that kicked it all off. But it's not as good as Wouldn't Change a Thing. Possibly not even, it's better than Got to Be Certain. But anywho, we got to talk about The Locomotion. If The Locomotion was not a cover, I would 100% have it on this list. But because it's a cover, I got to be real. It definitely kind of loses a lot of Kylie's is definitely a little bit more embodying the spirit, because I think this song was made for Kylie. This was a song that I remember in gym class in elementary school, my gym teacher would put on and have us do these sort of kind of corny floor exercises too. So I will always think of my elementary school PE teacher. I also want to give a shout out to Surrender from the self-titled. That could have easily made it onto this list. I want to give a shout out to Into the Blue from another album that I think is lauded as one of Kylie's worst, Kiss Me Once from 2014, which you will not see appear on this list either. Into the Blue is definitely the strongest song on that record by miles. Miles and miles. And then the other song I want to give a shout out to is Supernova off of Disco. I do think Disco has one other juggernaut, and that is Supernova. So Supernova could have made it onto this list, but I ultimately felt it would go in place 30. So some shout outs to some honorable mentions there. At number 5, we have
Making its way to the heart of me.
The One is the one. Again, I wish I had fallen in love with this song when I initially listened to X back in 2009. Took me several more years to get into it for some reason, but once I saw the music video, I just fully got it. This song is, I could have it go on forever. It feels like it goes on for a long time. It's very repetitive, but it's made to be. It's made to just repeatedly get into your skin. So that's so hypnotic. The music video is very hypnotic. This is, again, pop perfection. I don't know how else to say. I don't know what else to say, to be completely honest with you. Finally, Fever shows up on this list. I know some of y'all were getting worried. You were like, where are some 2001 Fever songs? Don't worry, In Your Eyes, one of the big singles off of that era, is definitely a Kylie standout. She references her earlier song, Spinning Around. I mean, come on. This song is just top tier. It was produced by Richard Stannard and Julian Gallagher. You know, honestly, I could say it's better than Can't Get You Out of My Head, but obviously my list is proving myself otherwise. I think there's just a level of iconic that Can't Get You Out of My Head will always occupy, that In Your Eyes is so close to meeting, but maybe because of its, you know, level of fame that the former achieved, that it didn't. I think that Can't Get You Out of My Head is going to always sit just slightly above, but these two songs are neck and neck. I like this song being described as like an LED light display because I feel the strobing sort of glittering lights of, you know, a sound stage, and the song kind of is very neon. Gives neon colors orally.
Can't you see there's so much here to feel? Deep inside your heart, you know I'm real. Can't you see that this is...
At number 3, we have All the Lovers. This was a big comeback hit for her in 2010. I do remember watching the music video when it premiered. And, you know, this is regarded as one of her all-time best songs. Again, it's a gay anthem, celebratory, euphoric, positive energy that just dominates the clubs forever and ever. It's got a similar sort of backing to, I think, Hold On to Now is sort of in conversation with All the Lovers in some ways, with the sort of Robin-esque production that is very featherweight, but yet full of rhythm and light. It is definitely an infectious song, one that's only grown with me over time. So at number 2, you know, you knew it was going to be up here, right? Can't Get You Out of My Head doesn't get to number 1, but it comes at number 2. And remember, these top 5 are almost interchangeable for me. This is just how I decided to let them lay out in the moment I made this video. But I could easily see this top 5 being any of these songs in any order, or at least the 4 before the first song. That song always was going to be at the top. Can't Get You Out of My Head, I will admit that my exposure to it is slightly more, when I worked at Bob Evans back in 2014, they played this song nonstop over the radio. And, you know, this is a restaurant for old people, right? This is like a country farm restaurant. So, you know, the pounding, the beat was always in the background, and it did start to drive me a little nuts. And I just used to hear this na 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 na. Like, I almost thought the song, yeah, it tried. It really tried to break me. But now that I've had distance from that experience, I mean, again, do we come to this song for the lyrics? Absolutely not. We come to this song for the production and the production. I mean, this is, you know, this is regarded as one of the greatest pop songs of all time. I think most publications would put this as the number 1 Kylie Minogue song. And it is, I think, her highest charting single, reaching number 1 in 40 countries. So at number 1, what could it be? See, this is why Light Years will always be my favorite record of Kylie's, because it has, at least tied with X, the most number of songs on this list, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think it has the most. On a Night Like This is a cathartic house track that undeniably just elevates to another dimension. This was produced by Graham Stack and Mark Taylor. This song is a real powerhouse, and it has been lauded by most critics, at least today, as one of her most career-defining hits. I love the twang of that guitar as it just reverberates in this. It's definitely giving me an Australian evening at a, you know, glorious, extravagant mansion by the pool, which is definitely the imagery the music video gives off. But the music video, it just like fits the ambiance so well. Because this is a summer song. This is a humid song. This is euphoric, explosive. This is the most undeniable song of her career. If you don't like this song, what's wrong with you? On a Night Like This will always be my favorite. And it was pretty clear to me that this was going to be number one once I made this list. It was sort of like the 5 or 6 songs below it. I was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, even this whole ranking, a bunch of these songs, I feel like it's Kylie is just, you know, she's never going to be an artist that I'm going to claim as to be a stan of. She's never even going to really be a full album artist for me. And that's something I must confess in this video. I don't really listen to any Kylie album front to back, unless it's the first time, because none of her albums are skip lists. There are some, you know, when she misses real bad. I hate to say it. I mean, you know, that comes with the territory of doing high camp, you know, bubblegum pop. For me, it either really pays off or it really falls flat. And that's the issue I have with a lot of her deep cuts. But she's really good at picking her singles. And then there are deep cuts that blow me away, as evidenced in this video. But this is a lot of her big hit singles. But I'm really glad I finally got to share, you know, the songs that I think really make Kylie a staple in pop legendary status, a legend, you know, because her past 2 albums were, you know, country and then disco. And this was just, I think Tension is really the second coming of Light Years. I think that these 2 albums are very much in conversation with each other. And that's why Tension excites me the most. At least since Aphrodite, it's her strongest album she's put out. But it might even be stronger than Aphrodite. And that's a strong record. But not one that I love as much as everyone else does. And so I think that's, you know, maybe uncommon, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments, what are your favorite Kylie Minogue tracks? Do you agree with my list? Are there songs in here that you felt should have been included? I mean, again, I should also shout out to the Robbie Williams Kids track. I just, you know, thought of it. That would have been my 6th honorable mention. I mean, every single off of Light Years, even Please Stay. Please Stay is great. Please Stay is great as well. All those songs are iconic. But Kylie is just, she keeps getting better for the most part. So I'm really excited to see a woman in her 50s like really take the world by storm and still have her boot and on the pulse of pop culture. That is phenomenal. It's something that, you know, Madonna's really struggling with, and it's not her fault. But I do think that there is something, Kylie's energy around it is a lot less like she's trying to force something. And I worry that that may be working against Madonna. Madonna tries so hard to be trendy that she oftentimes falls into this try-hard kind of, well, what happens is she often ends up being a couple years behind a trend, because when she makes an album that's about a new trend in music, it just doesn't, it's a quick kind of thing, you know, dubstep, and, you know, it was something she wanted to embrace, and then it just, you know, petered out, and it makes those albums sound very dated. But I think Kylie's really good at evolving, but also always having a through line of like 90s electronic music, 2000s electronic music. And so, you know, yeah, her earliest records sound dated, but once you get to Light Years, none of those albums sound like they 100% came out 20 years ago or didn't come out 10 years from now. She's very good at just being this timeless, you know, quality delivering pop artist. And she's not so worried about getting caught up in trends and you know, collabing with this new hot rapper. And I really appreciate that about her. She's just not really that. And then that makes the chart success feel so organic, and it makes you want to root for her because it's just something you know she didn't expect. But when it does happen, it often is because of just word of mouth and capturing the zeitgeist in ways that I think we can't predict. Kylie feels like she's always one step ahead of us. Madonna sometimes feels like she's kind of one step behind with the way she's trying to catch up. with pop culture sometimes. And I think that, you know, it doesn't help her sometimes. So I didn't want to turn this video. I love Madonna. I love Madonna. I didn't want to turn this video into that. I just had to say it. So again, share your thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all in my next one. Please give this a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you all in my next video. Peace, love, and light. Bye.